So, guys, thanks for joining our training today. We're going to be talking about target behaviors and how we write treatment goals in our behavior support plan. Two really important topics for us to understand, pay attention to, and please ask any questions. I'll be asking questions if we go. So feel free to answer. We'd love to hear from you today. So, target behavior training slash writing treatment goals. Let's get into it. So, what is a behavior? Well, a behavior is an observable and measurable action by an organism. So, that's really important that we understand that definition, that it's observable and measurable. So, we have to be able to observe it and measure it. And it has to be an organism that does it. It can't be an inanimate object. So, a behavior must be biological in nature, naturally occurring. It needs to involve, so being biological, it needs to be a living creature. It needs to involve movement. So, not having a behavior is not a behavior and not a good idea to put in your behavior support plan. Because how do we use our methods of reinforcement with no behavior? We can't really reinforce no behavior. It doesn't really work too well for us. So, we need to make sure that the behavior we write in our treatment plan involves movement and action, interaction with the environment. We need to make sure when we describe our behavior, we use an operational definition so that anyone can easily identify the behavior. It needs to be clear, complete, and use objective language. We need to detail exactly what the behavior looks like, and we want to be objective. We don't want to put any assumptions, judgments, or feelings into this definition. We want to make sure it's very objective. So we know with the certainty if the behavior happened or it didn't happen. And there's some behavior terms that we need to be familiar with working in the field. And one is response that you see quite often. So when we see the word response, what we mean by that is just a single instance of behavior. And we also have a test, and it's a little gruesome. So I apologize for that. But the test is the dead man's test. And the dead man's test just says if a dead person could do it, it is not a behavior. So that's a little test that we think about when we're writing behaviors and the operational definition. We run it through the dead man's test, and if a dead man can do it, it is not a behavior. So, what's an example maybe of a dead man's behavior or a behavior that would fail that test?
Up in your hands.
Well, that would of a dead man. Okay, so I see.
It
I'm
would
trying to
fail the
ask the
dead man
way.
test, yeah. I hope they're not clapping their hand.
Yeah, yeah, yeah. It'd be like a zombie movie.
I would say like a dead man can lay down, like
Okay,
lay
yeah,
down.
laying down. Yeah, good answer. Laying down would be an example of something that, if we were like in the action of laying down, that might be okay, but just laying there on the ground would be not a behavior that we would put in our behavior support plan, right? And a lot of times what we might see is someone right like not having a behavior, and that's something that would also fail the dead man's test. So make sure you're thinking about these things. And remember, when we use the word response, we just mean a single instance of behavior. And a lot of ABA terms use response in the name, inner response time, those kind of things. And what they mean is just a single instance of behavior. So important we know what that word means. So there's three characteristics of a good target behavior definition that Hawken and Dobbs taught us way back in 1977. Number one, it needs to be objective, referring only to the observable characteristics of the behavior, staying away from words such as intended to help, showing interest into much more objective ones. We need to be clear in that it should be readable and unambiguous, so that experienced observers could read it and readily paraphrase it accurately. And it needs to be complete, delineating the boundaries of what is to be included as an instance of the response and what is to be excluded, thereby directing the observer in all situations that are likely to occur, leaving little to their judgment. And these are kind of the criteria that we are looking at when we're reviewing your behavior support plan, that they meet these three criteria. Does anyone have any questions so far? So here's an example definition for elopement. An elopement is defined as any instance in which an individual leaves a designated area or supervision without permission and does not respond to redirection within 10 seconds. This includes walking, running, or otherwise moving more than 5 feet away from an assigned space, like a therapy room, classroom, fenced yard, designated area during an outing, in a manner that compromises safety or supervision. An example could be exiting a therapy room and running down the hallway without permission. So that's an example if we saw, and think about when we're writing examples and non-examples, we're kind of saying like, hey, if this happened, an example would be something we would count as an instance of elopement. And a non-example would be something similar. Elopement is happening, but not something that we would record as an instance of that behavior. So for our non-example, we have walking 2 to 3 feet away from a table during a break, but remaining within the room and supervision. So you see how the non-example is kind of like maybe someone coming in that's new or not familiar with this person might record that as an instance of elopement, but due to us having a complete definition, we indicated that that would be not an instance that we would be interested in recording upon for elopement. Does anyone have any questions regarding this slide or anything to add? So we want to test when we have our behavior definition, we have our target behavior, we want to test the definition. And these are the things that I'm thinking about when I'm reading over treatment plans. Morse in 1985 suggests testing definitions of target behavior by asking 3 questions. Can you count the number of times that a behavior occurs in? So your answer should be yes. So you should be able to count the number of times the behavior occurs. Your answer should be yes, right? Because that's really important for our measurement. If we pulled a stranger, number two, if we pulled a stranger off the street and gave them our target behavior and definition, would they know exactly what to look for when you tell them the target behavior you're planning to modify? And that answer should be yes. And then finally, can you break the target behavior into smaller behavioral components? And I see this number, and your answer should be no, that you should have wrote the simplest form of this behavioral behavior, your target behavior and definition. And sometimes I see people write this like very complexly, and we help break this down into simpler components. So if you could break it down into simpler components and always put that stranger in your mind when you're writing it. If I pulled a stranger off the street, would they be able to record reliably upon this behavior? Does anyone have any questions about these 3 questions? Okay. So we're going to move right on. So we learned a bit about target behaviors and definitions, and we're going to talk about treatment goals now. We're going to move on to treatment goals. And the treatment goals is a big portion of your behavior support plan. So when you're writing your behavior support plan, we have identifying goals. We're going to think about these ideas. So the treatment goals specifies goals for treatment. These are the criteria for the treatment goals, setting on where the goal will be practiced, outlines what data collection to use, outlines what prompt level is required, outlines the performance criteria needed for mastery. Okay, so those are kind of the 4 criteria. And we're going to take a look at some program goals that are typical in our behavior support plan. And so we could get a better idea on what these look like. So, but we have to consider first, there's 4 categories of goals that ABA practitioners work in. And the first is in an obvious category, the maladaptive behavior goals. And many times we get called into cases due to maladaptive behaviors. So decreasing or eliminating maladaptive behaviors that interfere with daily life, relationships, or learning. So what are some maladaptive goals that you've worked on?
Physical aggression,
Yeah, aggression. Yeah, definitely. What else?
Tantrums,
Tantrums. Okay, very nice.
Cursing.
Cursing. Okay, yeah, definitely. So these are maladaptive behavior goals that that interfere with our VIPs' daily living. And many times we get called in to be specifically because of these behaviors. But that's not where ABA leaves things, because obviously there's areas of many times reducing maladaptive behaviors is actually building a pro-social skill acquisition behavior. So the next three categories are really about identifying areas in our VIPs that they would like to improve upon or that replace these maladaptive behaviors. So the first one in the skill acquisition category is communication and language goals. Increasing functional communication skills, including verbal, augmented, or alternative forms. So what do we mean by this? What are we helping our VIPs with communication?
You maybe make their communication a little bit more functional. Um, ask for help instead of, resorting to the maladaptive behavior.
Okay, so teaching them to man for help, asking for help.
Increase socialization.
Okay, socialization maybe falls in the next category.
Oops.
Don't say oops, you're okay. That's a great goal that we would love to see.
Expressing like their own needs or preferences.
Okay, yeah, expressing their preferences, labeling, receptive communication, following directions, answering questions. These are some of the communication goals we may put in our behavior support plan to help our VIPs better communicate their wants and needs. Next is our social play goals. So this is promoting social interaction, reciprocal play, or leisure engagement to support social inclusion and relationship building. So, Sue, what was the example you gave us?
Increase socialization.
Increase socialization, being a part of group activities, maintaining eye contact, calling a friend, engaging in board games, leisure activities, listening to music, watching movies. What are some other ones that you might think about?
Well, my girl does yoga with me. She's my little sidekick, so she helps me explain the poses to her other peers.
Very nice. Being a part of that group, that yoga group. Very nice.
Working on making the socialization more appropriate.
Okay, yeah, socializing more appropriately with others, teaching them more appropriate ways to interact with others. Yeah, exactly. So think about our VIPs and think about, teaching a play goal, like using a board game or an activity like that, how it could help with communication as well, how we can really work on many things at once. We're working on games. We could also work on communication during that time. We could work on a lot of different tasks. And also our next category as well, functional goals. So this is the final category that we would work on. And the functional goals are support daily living and adaptive skills to improve independence and quality of life. So what are some functional goals that we have worked on with our VIPs?
Going to the gym,
Going to the gym to do what?
work out, and
Work
go
out.
on the machines
Okay, yeah.
and learn each machine and what they do and what area it works on.
Yeah, very nice. That'd be great. That'd be great. Teaching the proper form, the proper stance, engaging in with the machines in a healthy, appropriate way. Very nice. Yeah, definitely functional goal. What are some other functional goals?
How about like hygiene or like getting dressed or even bathing or brushing your teeth or something?
Yeah, no, excellent answers. They're very common things that we would help our VIPs with. So, that falls under the functional goals. Thank you, Christian.
Cooking goals or doing laundry, basic like ADL skills.
Yeah, that's right. ADL skills, laundry. What about individuals who may like live in their own apartment?
Like money management.
Okay, money management. Very nice. Yeah, money management, budgeting, paying bills, using an online portal to pay a bill, sending out a bill in the mail. There's a lot of different things that we can help our VIPs with there. Maintaining the house, cleaning, dishes. So we could identify a lot of functional goals to help improve daily living and adaptive skills to improve independence. Washing hands, toileting. I mean, this category really encompasses a lot. Applying for jobs, doing a resume. So a lot could fall under this functional goal category. So these are the 4 goals that I'd like you guys to think about when you're completing FBAs, when you're with your VIPs and you're doing work, you're getting to know them. I want you to be thinking about these 4 goal domains to help you identify goals that could improve their life. And sometimes it's, obvious what we can help them with, and other times it's not. So I help, and just our observations are very important and useful to identify goals. But another good way to identify goals in behavior support plans, or what we should be working on, is talking to the VIPs themselves if they're able to communicate this, and talk to them about what their life looks like 2 years from now. What do they see themselves doing in the future? And they will give you maybe a screenshot of what they're doing 2 years from now to help you identify goals. Another great way to identify goals is to talk to stakeholders who know the VIP very well, and kind of talk to them about what they want from our service, what they want in the future for the person they take care of. And this is another great method to extract goal ideas from the people that are a big part of our VIPs' lives. So not only through our own observations, but through our interactions, through our communication and talking with our VIPs and the stakeholders, we could identify treatment goals that are important to the person and also the stakeholders involved. And there's a term for this. And what is the term for this that I'm kind of describing?
Social validity.
Thank you, Brandon. Yeah, social validity,
Got
which is another training. These kind of conversations result in our plan having strong social validity. And there's a lot of pluses when we take this approach to treatment, but one of the best approaches is that we have buy-in from the stakeholders. We have buy-in from the staff working on the plan. We have buy-in from the VIPs themselves, because they actually told us what is important to them, and we are actively working on those things. So it makes us very useful as well with our work. So guys, think about some of these ideas when you're developing your behavior support plan, when you're working on goals, identifying goals. Does anyone have anything to add, or any story of using this method that helped writing your behavior support plan? We'd love to hear. Anyone?
Mike, you just want me to explain like each example of each one, what I've done?
No, I mean like using like a method to identify a goal with a VIP. Like what have you done to kind of identify what to work on in your behavior support plan?
So like with the hygiene skills, I've noticed my one client, he would come in, he would have he'd have a scent, and I know he wasn't washing at home, so we started like incorporating those skills at program. It took a while because like he would not really want to do it. So it's like just recently now he's actually like he wants to do that. He gets the wipes, he wipes himself, he cleans, puts the deodorant on, brushes the teeth. So just like, I mean, unfortunately, you notice it by the scent, or just like even the way that they look, you could tell that they're not clean. And then just like trying to work it in, I modeled it, did it with them, like I would show them how to do it. And then like afterwards be like, hey, I really like how your teeth look so clean. Or, hey, you know what? You're gonna smell so nice. Everyone's gonna be so like proud that you washed up, and things like that, just to like motivate them. But just with that area. And then, I was gonna say like, um, with the maladaptive behaviors, we all work with our buddy at program, and he decreased the aggressive hitting and slapping over the time we were working with him, teaching them functional communication, how to ask for things. He's pretty happy with that. We just noticed over the years working with our buddy there that these were just his ways of trying to get things that he needed.
Very nice, Andy. Well, yeah, you use your own observation skills and identified goals that would really improve this VIP's with hygiene. And you know, you would think that that would help with also social play goals as well. It also help reduce maladaptive behaviors as we feel good about ourselves, as we smell good and feel good, completing hygiene tasks, you know, that would probably make maladaptive behaviors less likely to occur. So nice job identifying that goal. I have a little story too of I worked with a VIP we're identifying goals for, and I asked them what their life would be. I asked them to close their eyes and go on a journey with me. And and I asked them to close their eyes and think about what their life looks like 2 years from now. And they told me they wanted to work on a job site. They wanted to pull up in a car. They wanted to be actively working. So through that goal that we identified of getting a job and working, you know, there was a lot of target behaviors we identified from just that brief conversation about what their future looks like. We identified that this person would benefit from learning how getting their driving manual, learning to read more effectively, identifying road signs as we're traveling, visiting the library, getting books about, and this person was big into being a mason, so masonry work. So we got books about stones and masons, and we practiced reading as well as we learn more about masonry. We investigated, going into schools and applying to go back to school to become a mason. So there was a lot of goals that we identified through this simple practice of having the VIP look kind of towards the future and seeing what they want for themselves in the future. We identify tons of goals to help them get there. So just another kind of thing you can do during your FBA process, but ongoingly to really help you identify some goals with our VIPs. And again, I can ask the same question to the stakeholders, to the staff involved. What would you like to see this VIP 2 years from now? What would you like to see them doing? What would you like to see them stop doing? And these are just great conversations to identify goals in your behavior support plan. Okay. And we're extracting that right from the people who will be implementing our behavior support plan as well. So pretty good strategy there. Does anyone have anything else to add? Okay. So we're going to get into some goal examples, and we're going to look at a graph, and we're going to kind of show you what kind of we do when we're evaluating our goals. So here's a maladaptive behavior goal. In all situations, Thomas will independently reduce elopement behaviors to no more than 5 instances per sessions across 5 consecutive sessions. So that's the goal that we outlined in our behavior support plan. We're working on, and you know, that 5 instances per session. So let's look at it first. These are the criteria where the goal will be worked on in all situations. So that's just the area we're collecting data in all situations. So we're collecting data maybe at program and at the home. Thomas will independently, well, that's the prompt level. So we want this person to independently, with no prompting involved, reduce elopement behavior. Well, that's the behavior of interest, the target behavior we're trying to work on, to no more than 5 instances. So when we say no more than 5 instances, what data recording method does that hint at?
Frequency.
That's right. Thank you, Chris. Frequency. So frequency should be the data recording method we are using in Central Reach. This program goal should link up to your graph. So no more than 5 instances per session across 5 consecutive sessions. So we're just looking to see on our graph, and that's the performance criteria, that we have met that criteria, no more than 5 instances across 5 consecutive sessions. So let's take a look at the graph. Here is the graph, and I hope you guys could see it okay. So on our graph, did Tom achieve this goal?
Yes.
Here's
No.
why. No, he didn't quite get it yet, but we're still early on here, and we hope Tom will continue to develop his skills of reducing elopement behavior with our help. So we see 5 here. He didn't quite meet the criteria yet. But what I want you guys to notice is that over here on the y-axis, we have frequency. So that's really important. Frequency And up here, we have a frequency number. So this makes it very easy to compare our data to our program goal. So we have our program goal, and say this was going on for a long time and Tom just could not reach his treatment goal. Well, we may think that we need to kind of take a step back to the FBA, maybe develop new strategies, talk to a BCBA, find out what was working and what's not working, and revamp the plan based on this data collection, because it is showing that, and I know realize it's only been a few days, about a week here, but maybe we need to make some tweaks to the behavior support plan if it is not being effective. It's really important that we are effective in our work. If we are not effective, we need to talk, we need to revisit the FBA and come up with new strategies to help Thomas in this situation. Not every plan is going to stick. And there's could be components in the plan that we have to modify and change as we are collecting data. So use the graph to help determine your treatment interventions. If your graphs are going in the right direction, then you are on the right track. If things are not panning out the way you thought, it's time to make a change. Okay, so Tom didn't do it yet, and I would encourage you just to continue a little bit longer to see if we continue to see a reduction, because we had a good day here. So let's go right after the 4th of July. Oh, okay, gotcha. So here's a communication language goal. While at the day program, Sandy, with one verbal prompt, will ask for help or break in 80% of presented opportunities across 5 consecutive sessions. And I really want you guys to notice that with the skill acquisition behavior, we use percent correct a lot of times, many times. So in your skill acquisition section, we expect to see a percentage here in your goal. So let's take a look at the graph to see if Sandy met her goal. So we're looking for 80% of presented opportunities across 5 consecutive sessions. Did Sandy meet that goal?
No.
No.
No, sorry, Sandy, not quite yet. We do see some progress right off the bat with Sandy, so something seemed to be going okay for us for a little bit, but no, she dropped off after that. So we see that, and what I want you guys to notice again is that we have 80% here in our data collection method in our goal. So over here, we need to make sure that we are collecting a percent. This needs to link up with the goal so we can easily compare. So again, if Sandy didn't meet the criteria, we can make changes to our interventions. We can collect a little bit longer, but if she still does not meet that criteria, it is time for us to make a change. We're not going to continue doing the same thing that is not being effective to help Sandy. We need to talk about it in supervision and come up with some additional strategies for Sandy to meet her goal. Now, again, this is only about a week of data recording. Give it a little bit more time, but if Sandy continually does not meet her goal, then we will need to make a change. Talk to your BCBA, come up with some different strategies, talk about what's working and what's not working. Does anyone have any questions as we go through this? Don't hesitate. Don't be shy in here. No one has a question. All right, I'm watching you guys. If I see you ready to ask a question, I'm gonna call on you. I'm just kidding. I'm not gonna call on you. All right, here we go. Ask a question though if you have one. So here's our social play goal. While in the day program, Freddie will sit in a group setting using model prompts for at least 5 minutes in presented opportunities across 5 consecutive sessions. Now, do you guys notice that I did something a little bit different with this goal? Because we have a duration recording here, but I'm still using percent correct or presented opportunities. So basically what I'm doing here with Freddie is I'm going to record how long he sits in the group setting, and we're looking for that 5-minute criteria. And if he hits that criteria, I'm simply going to put yes on my data sheet that he did sit for 5 minutes or longer on my data sheet. So what kind of data recording method would you expect to see on my graph?
Percentage of opportunity.
Good. Yes. Percentage of opportunities still. That was like a little bit of a trick question. Good job. Percentage of opportunities. Even though I have a duration here, I'm still using percent of opportunities for a skill acquisition behavior. And that's kind of what the common practice is in Central Reach when we're using Central Reach. So let's take a look at Freddie's graph. So we're looking for 90% of opportunities across 5 consecutive sessions. So again, what do we see here?
You didn't make it.
Sorry, Freddie. But we're going to keep trying. We're going to keep reevaluating. He's almost there. Let's keep using our positive reinforcement strategies to get him to play a little bit longer, and our antecedent strategies, maybe let him choose the game, maybe give him a special job. There's a lot of things we could do to encourage group participation. So, but Freddie is not quite there yet. Okay, that's it. Let's move on. So the final goal category is our functional behavioral goals. And here we have Samsonite, pretty common name out there. I'm sure you guys all know a bunch of Samsonites. While at the house, Samsonite will dress himself after toileting with only verbal prompts in 80% of presented opportunities across 5 consecutive sessions. Let's take a look at Samsonite's graph. So did Samsonite meet the criteria that we outlined for him?
Yes.
Yes. Good job, Samsonite. He met the criteria. So now we have someone that's a little bit different that met the criteria that we outlined for him. What can we put, what should we do with this now?
Change the percentage to maybe 90%.
We can push
Or,
the percentage
change-
higher.
Yeah.
Or what else? Sorry.
Or the consecutive sessions, change that.
We could
To
do
be-
that too. What else could we change?
We could change the method of prompting.
Yeah, we could change the method of prompting to be what?
Physical or no prompt.
Well, we should have no prompt.
Right.
Or we could say, instead of no prompt, we just could say independent, right? We would want Samsonite. And I think that that's totally worthwhile to do with this particular behavior, that we would want Samsonite to dress himself 100% of the time. We don't want him coming out at the mall without dressing himself after using the bathroom or something like that. So very important goal that we might want to push to 100%. We can also, if it was like a different behavior and we're satisfied with the 80%, maybe it's like cleaning the room or something like that. Well, in 80% of opportunities, we would like to see him clean his room. And it doesn't have to happen every opportunity, but we'd like to see it about 80% of the time. Well, we might be satisfied with the result at that time, talking with stakeholders and the VIPs, that 80% is a good criteria, we don't need it 100% all the time. So we might be happy with that. We might discontinue this goal. We might say goal is mastered. So just another thing to think about. So we talked a bit about reviewing goal status. So we want to use the graph to help determine if mastery criteria is being met. So this is kind of what I'd like to do when I'm on session, when I'm working with my VIPs, collecting data. I'm going to review their goals. I'm going to review the graphs that I'm making. I'm not just doing it because I'm supposed to. I'm going to actually use the graphs to help as a tool. Like a carpenter uses a hammer, I'm going to use the graph to help determine what I should do next. If a goal is met, like Samsonite, we're going to mark the goal as mastered or make the goal more difficult by reducing the independent level, the prompting level to make it more independent. Or I could increase the criteria I'm looking for. Or I can make it mastered. If we're satisfied with the result, I can mark it mastered. And even if I put a goal as mastered, I may take away treatment interventions, but I may still want to record the data to make sure that behavior maintains for a time. If a goal is not making progress after a set period of time, look at the interventions and review with the BCBA. So if you're not making progress with a certain goal, it's important that we reach out for help and seek guidance from a BCBA about what we could change, what we could do different. A good strategy too would be to revisit the FBA, to go back to the FBA and start some of that process over again. Maybe we missed the proper hypothesis for the behavior. Maybe we didn't pick up something that we learned on now that we can make a change. So make sure if the goal isn't making progress to make a change, do something different, find something that will work. And you have a whole team of people that are willing and able to help you with this. So do you guys have any questions? This guy surprises me every time. Any questions or anything to add about target behaviors or program goals or anything? Okay, well, it's a pleasure spending time with you guys this morning. If you guys need anything, have any questions, you know where to find me on Teams. I'd be happy to answer any questions, and I hope you guys have a great rest of your week. Thanks for everything.
Thank you, you too.
You
Bye-bye.
too.
Have a good
Thank
day,
you.
Mike.
Thanks. Have a
Mike, have a great
guys.
day, everybody.